computer's giving me a little trouble. Let's see. Computer's having a fit. Yeah, that's better now. All right. For that later. Alrighty. Good to see everybody. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Vijana Ballabha Jaya Kunja Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya O Sutana Satashi Shivat His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti
Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Namacharya Shilahaidas Thakur ki jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai Vrindavanam ki jai Machuranam ki jai Jagadata Swami ki jai Yamunamai ki jai Shrimati Lasadevi ki jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premananda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Buddhale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschadate Chatarni. Okay. So Meganat Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur and Riditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I'm going to take the mask off for class in case anyone wants to run away. Just when chanting, because when you chant, everybody's just spraying. But when talking, it's not so bad. But when you're chanting, everyone, goes out like 50 meters when people sing. So singing is actually the main point. Anyway, everybody here is pretty free of COVID, so it's not a problem. Just extra precautions. So, let's go on with the Caitanya Caritamrta. We finished the 4th chapter of the Antya Lila yesterday, if everybody remembers. And today we're going to start the 5th chapter, which is a very interesting chapter dealing with Pradyumna Mishra and his interactions with Ramananda Roy. 5th chapter of the Antya Lila of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. So without further ado, we will go to the Caitanya Caritamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, I'm going to read the chapter summary first. The following summary, it's a very short summary, of the 5th chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasha. Pradyumna Mishra, a resident of Sri Hata, came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear from him about Lord Krishna and his pastimes. The Lord, however, sent him to Srila Ramananda Roy. Srila Ramananda Roy was training the Deva Dasi dancing girls in the temple, and when Pradyumna Mishra heard about this, he returned to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, however, elaborately described the character of Srila Ramananda Roy. Then Pradyumna Mishra went to see Ramananda Roy again to hear about the transcendental truth from him. A Brahmana from Bengal composed a drama about the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and went to Jagannath Puri to show it to the associates of the Lord. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's secretary, Swarup Damodar Goswami, heard the drama, he discerned a tinge of Mayavada philosophy and pointed it out to the author. Although Swarup Damodar Goswami condemned the entire drama by reference to secondary meanings of the introductory verse, he nevertheless satisfied the Brahmin. That Brahmin poet thus became greatly obliged to Swarup Damodar Goswami, renounced his family connections, and stayed of Jagannath Puri with the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let's start the text. Is there incense burning here somewhere?
No, something in the kitchen.
No, there's incense.
No, incense I've taken it out.
Okay, good. Because I could still smell it.
Maybe it's open, that's why.
Oh, yes.
Oh, because you
It's
opened the door.
outside.
Because it's outside, so don't open.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I have very sensitive smell. That shows that I don't have COVID because I'm smelling it. I'm able to smell incense even though it's burning outside. If I had COVID, I wouldn't be able to smell it. I still smell it. Ooh. Anyway, I guess I'm not a Hare Krishna devotee. I don't like incense.
I'll write it too.
And I don't like the clashing of the cartels, so I guess you better find me another movement to join. Okay, let's start. Vaigunya kita kalita, pashunya vrana pidditaha, dain vatya narave, nigmagnoham, Caitanya Vaijam Ashraye. I'm infected by the germs of material activity, and I'm suffering from the boils of envy. Therefore, falling in an ocean of humility, I take shelter of the great physician, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So that can be everyone's mood. It should be everyone's mood. That we are just like, oh my God, I'm being harassed by these anarthas. Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion. And I have no other recourse other than take shelter of Lord Caitanya. There's nothing else is going to save me because basically I'm pretty hopeless. Jaya Jaya Sachi Sutta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Kripamaya Nityananda Tanya. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi. All glories to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Indeed, he is the most glorious and merciful. Jaya Dvaita Kripa Sindhu, Jaya Bhakta Kana, Jaya Surupa Gadadhara Rupa Sanatana. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Advaita Prabhu, the ocean of mercy, and to all the devotees such as Swarup Damodar Goswami, Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Sri Sanatan Goswami. Ekadina Praduna Mishra Prabhura Charane Dandavat Kari Kichu Kari Nivedane. One day Prajuna Mishra came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering him his respects and inquiring from him with great submission. Shuna Prabhu Munidina Grahasta Adama Kolna Bhagye Panachan Tumara Dulabha Charana. My Lord, he said, kindly hear me. I'm a crippled-minded household of the most fallen of men, but somehow or other, by my good fortune, I've received the shelter of your lotus feet, which are rarely to be seen. Krishna Kata Shinivare More Chahaya Krishna Kata Kaha More Hanasadaya. I wish to hear topics concerning Lord Krishna constantly. Be merciful unto me and kindly tell me something about Krishna. Prabhu Kahena Krishna Kata Aminahi Chani Sabe Ramananda Jane Tanra Mukhe Shuni. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I do not know about topics concerning Lord Krishna. I think that only Ramananda Roy knows, for I hear these topics from him. So actually it's mentioned in the first chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that hearing Krishna Katha is the remedial measure for the material diseases. Nivrittatu tarshar upagimana bhavochala shrotra mano biramat kauttamashloka gunanavadat puban vidajeta bina pashugnat. Very important verse. And so this material world tends to be quite boring. I was just talking to someone, and they were mentioning how this material world is like this movie, Groundhog Day. Anyone seen that movie? You've seen the movie. It keeps repeating. Well, let me give a synopsis of the movie for those of you who are not so educated.
Or uneducated.
That the person wakes up the same day, keeps repeating over and over and over again. So the material world is like that. You get up in the morning, got to go to work, got to do my laundry, the same children, the same wife, same husband, this the same car, unless you keep buying new cars. I mean, if you're wealthy. There was actually one famous person in the United States. He had anyway, he used to have the Tonight Show, and he has like 30 different cars in his garage.
Oh, wow.
So my father actually had about 20 cars. He collected cars. So, it's the same old. I mean, it gets a little boring. And so sometimes to conquer this same old depression, people travel. They go different places, because then there's new stimulation. But after a while, it becomes just like deja vu. I've seen it before. So we actually need variety. Like Prabhupada said, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So if we look to the external world for variety, not going to get it. It's just actually very repetitive. And then ultimately, just to drown out your sorrows, you got to drink. Or take some other form of effective intoxication like the internet, TikTok or something like that. Like, isn't it, the people go on this TikTok, and it's just, very stimulating short videos, like really funny things, like your dog driving a car or something like that.
TikTok is amazing. I love TikTok.
I know he loves TikTok. Because it's like stimulation. It's like pinching yourself, stimulated in different ways. And so, because the material world is kind of boring, isn't it? It's kind of boring. I mean, the same thing every day. It's interesting. So anyway, so that's why people need, this is called Bhoga Tyaga. Sometimes they need to enjoy, sometimes they need to renounce. At the same dinner every day, just like, for example, of course here they make too much prasadam for me, but when I'm at home, I just eat exactly the same thing every day. Just like 2 preparations. Quinoa soup, and some avocado and salad. And that's it. That's it. Bus. Nothing else. Nothing else. And that people go, oh, how can you live like that? The same thing every day. And the point is that, actually the real point is the stimulation or the variety has to come from within, one's consciousness. One has to have an internal life. If one has an internal life, then you could keep doing the same thing out externally, and every day is exciting. I mean, you look forward to every day. Otherwise, it's just like, wake up. Oh no, do I have to wake up? I was having such a nice dream. In the dream, I was a bird flying in the air. In the dream, people have all these different dreams. And you wake up and you look in the mirror and say, oh my God, who's that old guy looking at you in the mirror? I guess. Anyway, so the point is, it's the remedial, it's the cure, it's the remedy for all the material miseries and the boredom in the material world and everything. Krishna Kata. That's actually the solution. Anyway, so this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I do not know about topics concerning Lord Krishna. I think that only Ramananda Roy knows, for I hear these topics from him. Bhagi Tamara Krishna Kata, Shunite Hayamana, Ramananda Pashayai, Karaha Shravana. It is your good fortune that you are inclined to hear topics regarding Krishna. The best course for you would be to go to Ramananda Roy and hear these topics from him. Krishna Kataya Ruchi Tamara Vada Bhagyavan Yara Krishna Kataya Ruchi Say Bhagyavan. I see that you have acquired a taste for hearing talks about Krishna, therefore you are extremely fortunate. Not only you, but anyone who has awakened such a taste is considered most fortunate. Dharma Svanostita pungsam, this is Bhagavatam, Vishvaksena kata suyad no padiyad yadivratim, shramevi kevalam. A person who properly performs his regulative duties according to Varna and ashram, but does not develop his dormant attachment for Krishna or awaken his taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, is certainly laboring fruitlessly. That's from the Bhagavatam, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-8. That means if you're doing all your duties nicely and you don't develop a taste for hearing and chanting, you're just spinning your wheels. Spinning your wheels is a automobile example. That, of course, you don't have too much ice here, but I experience it all the time. That when you get caught, like in snow or something like that, and you just press down the accelerator, you know what I'm talking about, the wheels just spin, and you don't get anywhere, you just get deeper in the mud. And finally you have to call a tow truck. Or if you have nice disciples like me, you just call like 10 of them to push it out. That's what happened last time. I just called the authorities, hey, I'm stuck. And they had to, I said, I'm not responsible, you get crushed if the car goes forward. And they pushed it out. Tabi Prajuna Mishra Gela Ramanandera Snane Rayera Sevaka Tanre Vashaila Asane. Prajuna Mishra, being thus advised by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, went to the house of Ramananda Roy. There the servant of Ramananda Roy gave him a proper place to sit down. Darshanana Panamishra Sevaka Puchila Rayera Ritanta Sevaka Kahite Lagila. Unable to see Ramananda Roy immediately, Prajuna Mishra inquired from the servant, who then described what Sri Ramananda Roy was doing. Dvi Devakanya Haya Paramasundari Richa Gite Sunipuna Vayase Kishori. There are two dancing girls who are extremely beautiful. They are very youthful, and they are expert in dancing and singing. Sedune Lanaraya Nibrita Udyane Nija Nataka Gitera Shikoy Nartane. Sri Ramananda Roy has taken these two girls to a solitary place in his garden, where he is teaching and directing them to dance according to the songs he has composed for his drama. The drama being rehearsed by Ramananda Roy and the two young girls was the well-known Jagannatha Balawa Nataka. The songs and dances were meant for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. Therefore, Ramananda Roy was personally giving instructions on how to sing and dance for the drama. Tumi ihan vasiraha kshaneke asivena tabiye yajna deha sekari vena. Please sit here and wait for a few moments. As soon as he comes, he will execute whatever order you give him. Tabi Prajuna Mishra Tahan Rahila Vasya Ramananda Nibrite Se Dvijana Lana. While Prajuna Mishra remained seated there, Ramananda Roy took the two girls to a solitary place. Swahaste Karina Tara Abhyanga Mardana Swahaste Karana Snana Gatra Samarjana. With his own hands, Sri Ramananda Roy massaged their bodies with oil and bathed them with water. Indeed, Ramananda Roy cleansed their entire bodies with his own hand. Swahaste Parana Vastra Sarvanga Mardana Mandana Tabo Nirvikara Raya Ramanandera Mana. Although he dressed the two young girls and decorated their bodies with his own hand, he remained unchanged. Such is the mind of Srila Ramananda Roy. Kashta Pashla Sparshehaya Yache Bhava Taruni Sparshe Ramanandera Taiche Swabhava. While touching the young girls, he was like a person touching wood or stone, for his body and mind were unaffected. Sevya Buddhi Aropya Karina Sevana Swabhavika Dasi Bhava Karina Aropana. Srila Ramananda Roy used to act in that way because he thought of himself in his original position as a maidservant of the gopis. Thus, although externally he appeared to be a man, internally in his original spiritual position, he considered himself a maidservant and considered the two girls gopis. So, Prabhupada explains that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Amrita Prabhaha Bhasha, Srila Ramananda Roy composed the drama named Jagannath Ballabha Nataka, and he engaged 2 young girls who were professional dancers and singers to demonstrate the ideology of the drama. Such girls, who are called Deva Dasis, are still employed in the temple of Jagannath, where they are called Maharis. Sri Ramananda Roy engaged 2 such girls, and because they were meant to play the parts of gopis, he taught them how to awaken thoughts like those of the gopis. Because the gopis are worshipable personalities, Ramananda Roy, who considered the 2 girls gopis and himself their maidservant, engaged in their service by massaging their bodies with oil to cleanse them completely. Because Ramananda Roy always placed himself in the position of a maidservant of the gopis, his rehearsal with the girls was actually on the spiritual platform. Because there was no question of personal sense gratification when Srila Ramananda Roy was serving the girls, his mind was steady and his body untransformed. This is not to be imitated, nor is such a mentality possible for anyone but Sri Ramananda Roy. As Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu will explain, the example of Sri Ramananda Roy is certainly unique. The author of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta has given this description because in perfect devotional service one can attain such a position. Nevertheless, one must understand this subject very seriously and never attempt to imitate such activities. So basically it's a tradition in India to have the dancing girls dance for the deities. However, they would just dance for the deities. It wasn't like a public performance like we have now. You know, the Bharatanatyam was for the pleasure of the deities. It was actually a private thing, because otherwise people may get attracted to the girls who were dancing. And another point is that Ramananda Roy was identifying with his spiritual identity, not with the external. This is pretty much similar to what I was talking about in the beginning, because we identify with the external machine that we're running around with, because the body is a machine, yantra. Then we actually either get bored in this world or look for stimulation of the machine. But actually, we are not this machine. So instead, if one identifies with the spiritual body, then whatever attractions or repulsions the machine might have had become nullified, which is really interesting. So in other words, Ramananda Roy, because his body was spiritual, he didn't have an ordinary material body like the rest of us, but he was identified completely as the Gopi Vishaka. You know, that was his identity. So he's a girl who's dressing other girls to dance for the deities. And that's exactly what's happening. But of course, as Bhakti Vinod Thakur and others say, you cannot imitate that. And it's not that if you dress like a girl that you'll feel like a girl. Like the Sahajas in Vrindavan, you have many of these men who actually dress like gopis, put on saris and lipstick or whatever they put on, but they look like pretty ugly gopis. I've seen, and they beg for money. The gopi, it's just like, what kind of gopi are you? Anyway, so that is very dangerous, this Sahaja tendency. It's not that if you prematurely try to meditate on yourself as a gopi, or dress externally like a gopi, that's going to do any good as far as your spiritual advancement is concerned. The whole point Prabhupada told us to do is Prabhupada said, sorry about this. I didn't touch that by accident. Prabhupada said, deserve, then desire. In other words, first of all, we have to serve Krishna and his representative, get their mercy, and then somehow or other it'll be revealed to us. It's not an external change or a mental change that you have to do. Some people think it's even a mental change like that. You just like somehow or other picture yourself as a gopi. Okay, here I am as a gopi. Or a cowherd boy or a cow or something like that. It's not like that. It happens spontaneously. Not that you have to adjust your mind in order to do that. All right. Mahaprabhu Bhakta Ganera Durgama Mahima Tahi Ramanandera Bhava Bhakti Prema Shana Sima. The greatness of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exceedingly difficult to understand. Sri Ramananda Roy is unique among them all, for he showed how one can extend his ecstatic love to the extreme limit. Oh my God. Tabe se dvijane nritya shikaila gitara gura artha abhinaya karaela. Ramananda Roy directed the two girls how to dance and express the deep meaning of his songs through dramatic performances. Sanchari Satvika Staivavena Lakshana Mukhe Netre Abhinaya Kare Prakatana. He taught them how to express the symptoms of continuous, natural, and transitional ecstasies with the movements of their faces, their eyes, and other parts of their bodies. Shoo. So these are the different bhavas that are mentioned here. The Sthai Bhava, the Sattvika Bhava, or sometimes called Sanchari Bhava, and the Sattvika Bhava, as well as the Anubhava. Bhava Prakatana Lasya Raye Shikaya Jagannathera Getune Prakata Dehaya. Through the feminine poses and dances they were taught by Ramananda Roy, the two girls precisely exhibited all these expressions of ecstasy before Lord Jagannath. Tabe se dvijane prasada koi aila nibite dunhare nijagare othoila. Then Ramananda Roy fed the two girls sumptuous prasadam and sent them to their homes unexposed. Pratidina rayache karaya sadhana kunjalek shudra jiva kanhatana mana. Every day he trained the two Devi Dasis how to dance, who among the small living entities, their minds always absorbed in material sense gratification, could understand the mentality of Sri Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy's service to the gopis for the satisfaction of Krishna is purely an affair of the spiritual world. Unless one is fully situated in the spiritual atmosphere, the activities of Ramananda Roy are most difficult to understand. Of course, nowadays, in many instances, this whole system of Deva Dasis has become perverted. And in some temples, they're considered prostitutes. I don't know if you've heard about that before. So it's, just like everything in Kali Yuga gets worse and worse and worse. But it's a bona fide system where they would just dedicate their whole lives and existence and not get married, actually, just to Lord Jagannath. They consider Lord Jagannath or the deities of the temple to be their husband. It's a very exalted position, but nowadays it's many, many places it's a perverted, very perverted thing because they're not following the rules and regulations. All right, enjoy yourself. Mishra Gamana Rayat Sevaka Kahila Shigra Ramananda Tabe Sabate Oila. When the servant informed Ramananda Roy of Prajuna Mishra's arrival, Ramananda Roy immediately went to the assembly room. Mishre Re Namaskara Kare Samana Kariha Nivedana Kare Kichu Vinita Hana. He offered his obeisances to Prajuna Mishra with all respects, and then, with great humility, spoke as follows. Bakukshanaila more kehana kahila tomara chalane mora aparada kahila. Sir, you came here long ago, but no one informed me. Therefore, I have certainly become an offender at your lotus feet. Tomara agamane mora pavitra haila gara Ajnakara kya koron Tumara kinkara. My entire home has been purified by your arrival. Please order me. What can I do for you? I am your servant. Mishra kahe tomade ke takite hailaga made apana pavitrakai lun tumara darashane. Prajuna Mishra replied, I came simply to see you. Now I have purified myself by seeing your honor. Atikala teke Mishra kichuna kahila Vidaya Nahiya Mishra Nijagara Kela. Because Prajuna Mishra saw that it was late, he did not say anything else to Ramananda Roy. Instead, he took leave of him and returned to his own home. So maybe one more verse, because it's just about time. Aradina Mishra Haila Prabhu Vidyamane Prabhu Kahi Krishna Kata Shunila Rayastane. The next day, when Prajuna Mishra arrived in the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord inquired, "Have you heard talks about Krishna from Sri Ramananda Roy?" So we'll hear what happens between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prajuna Mishra tomorrow. We went up to text 33. Tomorrow we start with text 34 of the 5th chapter of the Antya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. So now we can stop sharing and stop muting everybody, and we can take some questions. Anyone here have any questions? Yeah.
It might be probably rather a stupid question. So you mentioned how Ramananda Roy, because of his exalted position, his mood is spontaneous. So
Yeah.
we also understand that Ramananda Roy is also incarnation of Arjuna as well as Vishaka.
Yeah.
So isn't his mood ever get confused between the two, or
Confused?
yeah, like is this like two different
No,
personalities?
no.
So,
No. He's actually Vishaka because it talks about Arjuna because has this friendly relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the empowerment by Arjuna, but he's actually Vishaka. So it's not that. Yeah, because Arjuna is the friend of Krishna, and in the case of Ramananda Roy, he's like the friend of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radharani, who is in the mood of Radharani. He's Krishna, but he's in the mood of Radharani. So, because still he is Krishna, you understand, he's still Krishna. He's not Radha, but he's Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Therefore, to be the friend of Krishna, it's not Vishaka's position specifically to be the friend of Krishna. She's the friend of Radharani. So therefore, she has to imbibe the mood of Arjuna to be the friend of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Do you understand that?
I do, yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Otherwise, if Ramananda Roy was simply in the mood of Vishaka, he couldn't be the friend of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has to have these mixed moods in order to be able to be the friend of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Vishaka doesn't stay with Krishna. Vishaka stays with Radha. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he's in the mood, I'm just repeating myself, even though he's in the mood of Radharani, he's not Radharani. He's Krishna. Because Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is Radharani. I hope that makes it clear. I mean, it's a little esoteric here. So, any other questions from anybody here before we take the people online?
Gurudev, you told in the class that we shouldn't be most of the time identify with our body.
Yeah, most of
When
that.
we-
Yeah,
all the
100%.
time, yes,
100% of
So,
that.
so when we try to desire something, so let's say if I want to watch a game or something, I know that it's not, I know that it's not what I want to do, but I'm compelled to do that. And then at that time, if I try to do Hare Krishna or read a book, mind doesn't go there.
Yeah, the mind won't go
So
there.
Where is this desire coming from? Is it
Because you're
coming from-
associated with the modes, it comes from the modes of nature.
Okay.
Karanam guna sangasha sadasa jaman jonishu. It's really interesting. The modes of nature actually are there. And when you associate, let's say you watch a game. Nothing wrong with watching a game, don't worry. Watch a game, isn't it? I mean, just like I've seen, I've given this example many times before, when I go through the airport, sometimes there's some sort of game. Well, I was in New Zealand once, years ago, and they were playing, I guess it's called the All Blacks. Definitely a racial type of statement, which is not so nice. They should change. In America, they actually changed the names of the teams because they used to be related to Indians, American Indians.
Yes.
So they changed it to something that wasn't so offensive to the different racial groups. So anyway, so I was watching the All Blacks. I even watched it. And they were playing some sort of soccer game or something like that. And as the people were watching, they were getting into the same mood as the players. They were going, they were grunting. You've probably seen that. And there's pictures of people watching these games, just like standing on their chairs and jumping up and down. And so, but I've seen people do that. There's, especially when in the airport, they have these sports bars. People watch a sport game and drinking at the same time. They become immersed in the mode of passion and ignorance. So it's by association with certain modes. It becomes harder to hear and chant when one associates with those modes. I'm not saying there's some prohibition about these things. I mean, obviously, you need a little fun once in a while. You have to balance it so I don't get in trouble with people. So basically, one has to be aware of what they're doing when they're associating with certain modes. And you can even associate with certain modes in the mind and get into things. Like sometimes people become obsessed about certain thoughts. And you're associated with certain modes, obsessive, compulsive. You're just like, oh, I'm unhappy. I'm really unhappy. Oh, I'm so unhappy. This world is horrible. It's really horrible. So the yogi just pulls the mind back. It's like the tortoise pulling his limbs in when there's some danger. So that, the yogi can identify, oh, this is not good. But I've seen many times people get really into obsessive, not behavior, but obsessive thoughts. And it's really common. But what I do is instead of obsessing on something, I just like refocus the mind. And obsessive also can indicate becoming attached to sense objects. Jayato vishak pumsam sangus tesha bhajayate. Krishna says in the Gita that you contemplate sense objects and you become attached to them. So you have to be careful when the mind starts to think about a particular sense object, that you pull it back immediately. So that's how I actually changed my diet years ago, because instead of thinking about, oh, how can I not eat this anymore? How can I not do that? How can life go on without paneer? Just don't think about it. And of course you have to have a strong will, a strong intelligence to be able to pull the mind back like that. I'm not going to think about that anymore. I'm not going to contemplate that. So, take some training.
Like the more you think about not thinking about it, the more you think about it. So
That's right. So you think, that's true. That's actually a good point. So you think about something else.
Yeah.
That's true. That's actually true. Thank you for making the point. You can't do it, don't. The more you try not to think about it, I mean, let's say if someone would say, oh, paneer. So instead of thinking about that, I just think about quinoa. No, that's not. That would definitely not replace paneer. That would be funny. Delicious quinoa. So, so what do I think about? I think about, Prabhupada and my mission in life and everything like that. Yeah. I don't do a don't. I just think, what is my mission? And I think of myself being healthier. And so that's a positive thing. And so when you think about the positive thing, the thing you want to do and the thing you may not want to do actually disappears. I mean, that's Raso Varjam Rasopyasa Param Jasrati Vartate. That's actually a good point. It's hard. It's hard, and we all experience when we watch something, or I mean, just like even the other day I was taking a walk and I was watching a little bit of soccer. I mean, it wasn't a professional game; it was just some kids practicing. I found it interesting. Yeah, the mind finds that interesting. Yeah, and it's actually a game in that the girl was defeating the boys. I was thinking of those poor guys,
Makes it more interesting.
Scarred for life.
Yeah, the poor guy is traumatized, So, sometimes, and certain things, just like walking in the park, we look at the birds and we think, how beautiful they are. Yeah, are nice birds in Australia. So it's not that you just have to become like the whole material world has COVID or something like that. You don't want to make everybody paranoid. You can't look at the nice bird. No, don't look at it as Maya. Don't listen to the birds chirping. Nice chirping of the birds. So, you can't be too crazy about these things. You definitely need a little bit of sense gratification in life in order to, it's like Prabhupada said, it's like salt. You definitely need a little bit of salt in order to enjoy life, enjoy eating. But too much salt and you get sick. So Prabhupada said, sense gratification is like that. So everybody needs sense gratification. Even Prabhupada was, one time they were trying to serve Prabhupada just boiled vegetables. And Prabhupada said, let the starvation committee go to hell. He said, jokingly, it's better to die eating nicely. So, of course, Prabhupada was completely in control of the senses, but Prabhupada was basically giving us instructions that don't try to become too renounced in this world. You need a little enjoyment now and then. It's not, so playing soccer is fine. You have to be careful. So, no, when we were building the temple in Suva, we would have a volleyball game right after, in the afternoon. I play volleyball too, see? I'm not that bad. So we got all the devotees together and we'd have a volleyball game. And we'd all be yelling and screaming at each other during the volleyball game. What you do when you're in a competitive mood. And it was nice. Here's myself and devotees in Fiji. Actually, Nishinga Kovacha was there too. He's a pretty good volleyball player. And so, there's nothing wrong with that. So you have to really chill out sometimes just to be normal. All right, so let's see. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll take questions online. Let's see what are the questions online. All right, here's some of that. Ramana Raya is actually Arjuna's three brothers said to be the other Pandavas. Yes, but then he's a combined incarnation. How that is, that's beyond our ability to understand. Hari Krishna Guru Maharaji. Maharaji. It's better than Guru Maharaj, yeah. G. If you had the G, it's more respectful, Swamiji, Guru Maharaji, Pitaji, Mataji. So when one is in extreme bodily pain, she or he is absorbed a lot internally. At that time, one is detached from the external world. Is that also an example of internal life? Not exactly. Internal life means a spiritual life is what I'm referring to right now. Not being absorbed in your pain in the material world. We have to, if we hear and chant enough about Krishna, then there's this whole life that develops internally. And when you read about Krishna, or read about Krishna's pastimes, devotees' pastimes, and you visualize and you take it into your heart, bhavanti vritkarna rasayana kata, then you actually develop this whole internal life. And then what's happening externally is just like, whatever, you know. It's like some bad movie, like we talked about Groundhog Day. Some bad movie that just keeps repeating itself. Okay. Any other questions? Online, inline? Oh, Keshav has a question.
Gurudev, yes, Guru Maharaj. Vishakha Devi,
You're
she
not
is one of the
Keshav,
principal
you're Rakesh.
gopis.
Yeah, you're Rakesh. You're not Keshav. All right, anyway, Rakesh, ask your question. Keshav can ask this question. Go ahead.
My question is Vishakha Devi is she is one of the principal gopis,
Yes.
and it is said she is the maid servant of the gopis. Like gopis are her maid servant, like all the manjaris are her maid servant. How?
Yeah, she's the maid servant of Radharani. And she, in order to serve Radharani, she trains up the other gopis. And that way she serves the other gopis. Okay? It's a little elevated. First, we have to understand what gopis are. All right, so Keshav, you have a question.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, Dandavat pranams to you.
Haribol.
So, Gurudev, I always have a
It's
question.
myself in the background. That's actually funny. Why don't you talk? So I want everyone to see what you look like.
Oh,
Oh, he changed it? No, he didn't change it. You see it? I can see him myself. All right, so go ahead. It's kind of funny.
so Gurudev, I always have a question in relation to the difference between Sadashiva. So, Sadashiva in the spiritual world has Vishnu Tattva and Rudra in the material world. So, is Rudra is the expansion of Sadashiva?
Rudra's expansion of Sadashiva. Sadashiva is Vishnu Tattva expansion in the spiritual world, and from whom, whom the Rudra in this world expand, all the incarnations of Lord Shiva in this world expand.
So, Sadashiva is not a material like Brahma. So, but Sadashiva has a different Vishnu Tattva, right, Gurudev?
Yeah, he's Vishnu Tattva from whom the Shivas in this world expand.
Okay.
Is that explained?
Yeah. Thank you, Gurudev. Thank you.
It's nice seeing myself when I'm has
You're blessing me, Gurudev.
there's a background with me on it. It's like seeing myself. It's kind of nice to look at myself. The younger version. Anyway, so the good old days. All right, so I guess that's it. I guess we should end now since we have a full day of service and things happening. Thank you very much. All glories